Hello everyone, this is my fortress farm setup. Most of this is obviously going to change with every fortress you're at, but hope that you'll at least enjoy the trident killer portion of it, which is what I am going to be focusing on. Okay, one thing to mention before we get started is that you do have to build these in one of two directions from the spawn spot. So once you've located your spawn spot, you're going to have to build it in the north or the west direction. So I like to use pumpkins. So the stem will always point to the corner that the mob will spawn on. So the mob's going to spawn right here. And so when you're putting your glass in, you're going to be forcing it either to stand over here, or you're going to be forcing it to stand over here. So as you put in your glass blocks, you're going to put them here so that they get forced over there, or you're going to be putting them in here so that they get forced onto this block here. So that's one key thing to know just before you get started with this whole process. That's going to determine which direction you start building all these modules. This is effectively all that the trident killer is. We've just got a trap cart trident killer where the mob gets caught into the minecart. Our fence post is holding the minecart up just high enough that the blaze are not able to escape it, so you can AFK above or below wherever you want. And then the cobweb will keep the items falling straight down so they don't get stuck on this glass pane. And the minecart is locked perfectly between this glass pane and the stairs. It's a bit tricky getting it in there so it stays, but it's never going to move, so your trident is also never going to move as well. So it's pretty much instant kill for single individual mobs. They're instantly in the trident killer. The group bulks pack spawns take a little bit longer to kill, but overall I think this is a nice balance between a quick and simple build and overall speed. So I'll just show you it in action here a little bit. Just start the mob spawning. See them spawning and being killed right away. This is a basalt delta. I've got this built in right now, so you do have the large slimes. You can have a floor in this build and a bunch of iron golems to deal with them, or if you're motivated enough to dig yourself a perimeter and you're in the Sim 4 range, you could just let them jump off and despawn, which is probably faster than the iron golem. So we'll just come down and stop this now. Stop that. Turn that off. And now I'll go and I'll show you a little bit of kind of how the items fall down. They end up falling basically straddling right here, a little bit off to either side. So you do need 1x2 area for item pickup. I've got the campfires 10 blocks down here to burn the experience, and this one's just got a hopper line to carry the items off to storage, or you can also do a setup like this with slime block launchers. Looks like I had a trident from a previous build that I hadn't picked up. And then again, you can just send the XP off to get burned, or if you're AFKing down there, you can be collecting the experience points. So now I'll show you some of the key things here about the build. So I have in the world download basic brief description of what I'm explaining here. So if you have the world download, you can kind of get a refresher as to what it is. And I've listed out all the different blocks here. Basically, if you see a glass block here, that can be any full block. It doesn't necessarily have to be glass, but obviously you're going to want to make sure things are spawn proof. Any cut copper blocks I have in here are the only blocks that need to be powered. I have upside down stairs, and they do need to be an upside down stair specifically to make sure the trident doesn't break your minecart, to lock the minecart in there on the bottom. Have to fix that. And also, it keeps the mobs from pushing up against and moving your trident later on. The fence posts can be any fence post, but it is required to keep the minecart high up. And only glass panes or iron bars are able to be used here, and I'll explain why in just a second. The powdered snow is in the farm so that it will kill any small magmas or baby mobs that you could spawn depending on your biome. And then any white glass you see is meant to be glass, and that's just to keep your mobs from spawning and getting pushed into the correct location. I do have a little kind of checkered outline here. That's just to kind of show the size of your drop chute. That'll make a little bit more sense when you see the double minecart version, which is slightly faster, and it's got a slightly different drop chute. So why don't we actually go down and have a look at the double version right now. So this is the double minecart. Again, it's just a single spawn spot that we're using, but we have 2 minecarts and 2 trident killers in here, so that when we get the pack spawns, the herd spawns, we're killing them twice as fast. So if you have a very high number of spawn spots that you're using, or perhaps you're not 100% spawn proofed like it is here in the Void World, this is going to make a bigger impact, because this single one here, especially with the magma cubes, if they're a bit of a slow kill outside, you can be hitting your local mob cap pretty quickly. So killing off your mobs faster is probably going to make a bigger impact. But what I meant with the drop chute is in the double version here, it'll still get picked up by 2 hoppers, but you can't have any full blocks on the sides in here, because those full blocks will catch your drops. So you have to kind of center your drops if you're using the slime block launchers there. So I'll come back to this and I'll show you this build and it in operation a little bit more down the road. But I want to show you the key points for how this ends up getting assembled. So before you put your minecart in, you need to have your iron bar or your glass plane in place, and you cannot have any blocks right here. You have to keep those empty because it actually changes the hitbox size of your iron bar. Right now, this is exactly center where it stops in the block. But as soon as you add a block in over here, it gets just that hair, just that little bit wider, it seems, where it actually holds the minecart. And it is just that picky about how much it holds it in. So we're going to push the minecart into place. Oopsie. Push it in over there, and now it's just sitting on the fence post. I'll push it all the way back, and now we got to push the stair into place because the minecart's going to prevent us from actually placing it. And now we can put that in there, and we can see that this is not going to slide that way. If we come down over here, break it, you see it's not getting pushed back in the other direction either. So with this stair and this iron bar, even the small magmas or the baby mobs, they can't fall down there anymore. But the minecart's held up enough that it's going to grab them and it'll pull them into our trident killer right here. And then just anywhere you throw the trident on this half of it, and it'll start killing them once you turn the whole thing on, and then you just finish placing your blocks all around here. You put a cap on it, keep the blaze from flying up on you. Remove that, and you're good to go. Never going to lose the minecart, the trident. If you leave it running, it will land on the stair and you can't relog to fix it like you can on the double wide version. But you just have to rethrow that and you're good to go. So just have to be careful about leaving it running when you run off or at perhaps a server restart. So that's basically how this one is built. And I will reset that again as well, just as an example for the world download. My original designs here, I will show you. They're just a little bit simpler. This is just a double layer powdered snow to kill any of the smaller mobs that might fall through. And it just sets on top of the stone cutter to keep the minecart up high enough. It can slide back and forth, but I've been using this one for a couple of months before I worked out exactly the little quirks with this here. So it's pretty secure and stable, and this one is much easier to build. You just build the body, push the minecart in, and the downside to this one is it has absolutely nothing for experience. So your experience just sits around until it despawns. So just to get yourself started, this is a good build, but if you're going to go with a larger farm, be nice to your world, be nice to your server mates, and build one of the designs that can either carry the XP to you or burns it for you. And then over here I've got a little demonstration showing that all these builds, if you have two spawn spots right beside each other, all of these builds will work with spawn spots that are that close. So you can pretty much build this in your fortress no matter what the layout is of your spawn spots and make use of every single spawn spot that you've got that you can fit inside your simulation range. And then just down here, I do have a demonstration version of that. This one actually isn't a spawn spot for this farm, but I did build it in here so you can kind of see the two of them beside each other with our 10 block distance so that the light doesn't block the wither skeletons. And you could just have a simple setup like this and a bunch of chests down there if you didn't want to do a full storage system. Over here with the ice roads, you'll see here, because the items can sometimes get stuck right on this ledge, just to make sure that the slime blocks will actually hit all of the items consistently, you do need some small pistons to push them over so that they're lined up properly for the slime blocks, and then you can launch them off. Okay, that's pretty it, quick and simple. I over-explained that, but it really is just a simple little build. Now I'll show you over here how to go about making this double stack, because it is more picky. And then we'll hop over into the other world with the double stack, and I'll show you the quirks for setting that one up as well. So to get these two hoppers in here, we're using the wither skulls themselves to lock the hoppers in so that they're not moving in this direction, and then they pin each other between iron bars. Pretty much can't use anything other than iron bars here. Glass panes, or not iron bars, chains. Pretty much can't use anything other than chains here. Now this one is relog proof with the tridents. What that means is that because we have a trapdoor under here, just some weird little mechanics of the game, if you leave this thing running and the trident falls down into here when you've left the area or restarted the world, all you have to do is turn the whole system off, log out, log back in, and your trident will shift itself back up on top of the trapdoor where it's supposed to be. So that's one of the major advantages to this design here, because I was able to incorporate a relog proof design. When you have a larger setup and a lot of tridents, you are able to just relog, fix the tridents so that you don't have to throw them again. I do have two different fence posts underneath here for the double trap cart. that is on purpose, and that's because these do not connect to each other. But we are keeping that extra block and a half high height in there to make sure that the minecarts stay up. You could potentially get rid of one or the other of these, but no items will ever get stuck on them. They never have in all the testing that I have done once we added the cobweb. And it's just that little extra insurance to make sure that no other mobs and none of the minecarts decide to fall. So all your items will land right down in the middle here, like I mentioned earlier. Right, so as far as getting that in there, you gotta have the powdered snow out to start, and you actually have to have an extra wither skull in here where the powdered snow would be, just to get it all lined up. And we've got our walls on here, keep the minecarts from sliding side to side. As soon as you get them off the carts, off the tracks, they'll want to kind of push each other around. So we have to drop these two down. They're almost lined up perfectly for the skulls, but you can't quite get them perfectly lined up any farther than pushing up to this post, and they will fall off the track, and then they don't stack, they just sit on top of each other. So if you see we break this block, there is 2 minecarts in there. So now we gotta come down here, break that block, and hopefully this works first time. It's a little finicky, so it is possible for this to go wrong. There we go. You gotta be real careful. If you nudge them too hard, they'll separate, and then you have to start over. So now that they're sitting in here, break that block, open those 2 up, and then if you come in here, voila, they are in position. Now you can break that, grab ourselves some powdered snow, we can place the powdered snow in place here, and then the fun part comes where you have to use a piston to push your walls into place here, because I'm trying to put a block there, but I can't put a block there. So you gotta piston push this in here, you gotta piston push the one on top of this powdered snow in here, and piston push this other side. So there's 3 blocks to push into place, but other than that, it's just your upper trapdoors, a little bit of redstone dust, throw your tridents, and you're good to go. So I will fix that again for the world download, but we're just going to hop over to the double trap cart world so you can see that a little bit more. Okay, we are in the other world with the double trap carts. As you see, I've got this set up so it shows the demos of both versions. So you are able to only download one, but there's a few small differences with the double one versus the single. So you can see here, we could still have our spawn spots 1 block separated, and you can still have a double trap cart version installed in there. You just gotta be installing things a little bit more different with your tridents that are getting tossed in here. You gotta make sure that they're off-centered here. This here, I think, is a little something that I do that's unique, just because It annoys me sometimes throwing tridents, especially if there's already a mob sitting there. It bounces off, you gotta kill the mob. So I've just taken to tossing my tridents at a trapdoor or a gate above, and then flipping that, and it falls open. That's also really good for some of the versions of trapdoor trident killers where you have to be really picky for your trident throw. Helps get it right at the perfect spot. Anyways, this is just to show you can have them too wide and it'll still work, and you can still have your just single 2 hoppers here to pick it up. You don't need to have a whole lot more hoppers. It's only the experience that goes a little bit wide with this that some of the experience might miss it. So if you really want to burn all the experience, you might just want to have a few more campfires here. The big change comes when you're doing your slime block launchers. You need to have 3 pistons up here to push to center all your drops so they fly down this road. Otherwise, you're going to have items that can get caught on here, and you're going to need to have an extra wide ice road. It's just going to be a little bit extra headache. This seemed to be the simplest way to add a few extra pistons in here. And they don't have to fire very often, but you don't want to let the items sit out in the world for too long, so you know, every few seconds, if they pulse, just to keep the items moving would be just fine. If you were doing if your spawn spots were only 1 block separated, you would have to get a little bit more creative with your piston pushing. Probably have to step it over a couple drops down to push the 1 spawn spot over so it centers with this one here. But all of that item transportation, the redstone work here, is all going to be unique for every fortress that you build anyways. So you're going to have to get creative with it basically no matter what you do. As far as rates go, with this setup here, the difference between the double and the single was just a half a stack. Basically a half a stack of skulls per hour more using this double setup versus the single setup I showed you before. So not huge difference for doubling your minecarts and doubling your tridents. But again, that's probably just because this is a void world and there's only 16 spawn spots. So if you have other mobs running around, or you've got more spawn spots, then you'll probably get more out of these builds. I'll put a little bit more information about the various rates for the drops in the details of the video. But other than that, that's basically this Fortress Farm design. I hope you like it.